guys, tonight we descend into a cathedral that no longer remembers light. Its bell rings without hands, its pews shift when you're not looking, and its sermons, well, they were never meant for you. But they'll find your ears anyway. You've come seeking truth, haven't you? Unfortunately, truth always comes dressed in mourning robes here. A word of warning, you probably won't survive this, so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop your location and local time in the comments just in case something follows you back. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The bell tolls again. It is not the hour for worship. The sun has long since set, and the villagers haven't walked the old road to the cathedral in decades. Moss devours its steps, the stained glass weeps colorless tears. But still, the bell rings deep, hollow, wet. You feel it in your ribs, first a subtle rattle, like something knocking to be let out. Then the echo, lingering longer than it should, curling like smoke in your ears. You know already what scholars whisper about this place, though few admit to studying it. The last theologian who tried wrote backwards for a week, then stopped writing entirely. His hands now rest in jars beside the altar. You shouldn't be here, but of course you are. The cathedral's double doors groan before your fingers touch them. They open like a sigh. The air inside is humid with incense, mildew, and something bitterer. Rot, yes, but refined, as if it had been distilled from centuries of dying confessions. Light filters through shattered stained glass, cutting the air into violet bruises. The pews stretch toward the altar, where a tapestry still hangs depicting a prophet with no face, no hands, no feet, just a tongue stitched onto the heavens. The bell echoes again, though you are inside now, and then the pew moves. It's subtle, barely a twitch, but unmistakable. The sound it makes is not wood against stone, it is breath. The pew inhales, you do not sit, somewhere to your left, and starts. At first, it sounds like wind, then it harmonizes, in low tones that vibrate behind your teeth. The voices are young, pure, off-key choir boys. You remember, dimly, the stories of how the bell once called them to rehearsal, even after their bodies had burned in the cloister fire. How the townsfolk heard singing long after the funeral smoke cleared. How those who followed the music vanished before dawn. You try not to follow it now, but your feet are already walking. The stone beneath you is slick, not with water, no, this is older. A thin trail of congealed red, cracked and flaking like paint, leads toward the vestry. Someone or something was dragged. There's a scent rising, iron and incense. But behind that, the sharp tang of ink, you follow it to a side chapel, tucked behind a velvet curtain stiff with age. There, in the shadows, stands the bell. It is far too small to produce the sound you heard, a desk-sized thing, tarnished bronze, covered in prayers carved in unfamiliar script. Each letter seems to shimmer when you look away from it. The clapper is missing, so what's been ringing it? You don't ask aloud. Instead, your gaze drifts downward. Beneath the bell, where a basin once held holy water, sits a book. Bound in black, leather puckered and brittle, its pages thick with uneven edges, and on the front, burned not inked is the word. Vorther, a name, the ear shifts, colder now. You hear the whisper, no voice, just pressure inside your skull. You turned the page, you didn't. Not yet, but you will. You open the book, the first page is blank. Then, as you watch, ink seeps upward, as if bleeding in reverse. Words form slanted, frantic, beautiful in their cruelty. The tongue is the altar. Feed it truth, and it will feast on lies. You blink, the page is blank again. A sound behind you, the choir boys are closer. You close the book, gently, but the bell rings again, this time. Your mouth tastes blood. You do not remember biting your tongue. The pews have shifted again closer now. They line the chapel wall, facing inward, expectant, watching. You realize you are already part of the sermon, and the bell keeps ringing. You step backward, but the chapel does not allow retreat. The air thickens behind you, congealing, resisting. Like walking through wet parchment, you press forward instead, deeper into the belly of the cathedral, your boots sticking slightly with each step. The blood has dried in layers here, like varnish. The name still echoes inside your mind, Vorther, though your lips refuse to form it. A wise instinct, the black psalm of Vorther is not a melody for the living. You pass beneath a stone arch where dozens of tiny tongues are etched in a ring, some with teeth marks, others nailed flat against the stone. Above them, in faint, scratchy script. Speak only what the stone allows, and below that, a smudge of something black that smells like old parchment and wet iron. You'd rather not guess what wrote it. Ahead, the corridor yawns. Narrower than the nave, it hums faintly, as if threaded with strings you can't see. You brush one by accident. It twangs softly, and the chapel bell answers from behind you, an echo with teeth. You descend 3 steps, and there it is. The chapel of the Hollow Prophet. It's less a room than a cavern hollowed behind brick. No mortar holds the stones together here. The air itself keeps them suspended. The ceiling vanishes into gloom. The pews are gone, now replaced by crude stone benches carved with names that weren't always names. Shrithna, he who gleamed, Maud, and dash again dash VORTHY or ... The pulpit is empty. The congregation is not. 12 statues line the wall, tall as men, carved of something too smooth to be stone, too cold to be wood. Each wears a cassock, hands folded in prayer, and faces cast in agony. You step closer and realize these are not carved, these are castings from life. The mouths are open mid-scream, and all the tongues are missing. Your skin tightens, much like your situation now, isn't it? You reach the altar, a slab of obsidian, the kind of obsidian that shouldn't sing when touched, but it does. You place your fingers on it for a moment too long. The slab pulses beneath your hand. A low vibration, not quite pain, not quite pleasure, somewhere between confession and sin. A voice trickles from the darkness, not spoken, not heard, only felt. One tongue given, one truth burned. You recoil, the voice fades. There's something carved into the altar itself. You lean closer, the script is deeper here, gouged in jagged lines, desperate. He preached without lungs, he preached through us. We were never allowed silence. You blink, the carving shifts. Now it reads, you will understand when your throat forgets how to lie. A sudden gust scatters dust across the chamber, and one of the statues sighs. It is not a trick of acoustics. It is not your mind playing games. You step back and the statue on the far right trembles. Its mouth cracks open wider. From within, something glistens. At first, it looks like a root, then a tendon. Then it unfurls. It is a tongue. Fresh, pink, still wet, still moving. You freeze. It lolls forward like a dog's in heat, then retracts into the mouth again slowly, deliberately, a final flick, a gesture of invitation, or hunger. You don't move. The statue sighs again, louder this time. And then the hymn begins anew. This time, you're in the middle of it. The walls vibrate. The hymn is not sung, it's exhaled, moaned, howled without pitch or breath. It floods your ears and pushes tears from your eyes. Not because it's beautiful, but because it knows you. It knows your name. It says your name. You hear it in the 3rd verse reversed, scraped into harmony. Your knees buckle, one of the benches sighs beneath unseen weight. You feel watched, now, worse, you feel studied. Your tongue itches, the altar hums louder. And somewhere in the rafters, though the ceiling should be too high, something walks. You should leave, but the bell rings again, and you realize it's not the sound that calls the tongue. It's the silence that follows. Your mouth tastes of copper now. Not blood, at least not quite. It's a subtler rot. Like ink left too long in bone. You try to speak, to curse the taste, but your tongue lies heavy, uncooperative, as if listening to some distant command. The hymn ends, or rather, it is swallowed, like a candle sucked into a vacuum. The silence that follows bends the air. You hear your heartbeat, then someone else's, then more. Too many hearts for one room. You step backward, but your boot hits something soft, something that exhales when touched. You turn, slowly. It's a pile of choir robes. No, not robes. Skins, flayed and folded to resemble robes, perhaps in mockery, perhaps in reverence. They're stitched together at the throat, forming a ring. A choir circle, and in the center, a tongue, black with rot, sits on a velvet pillow like a sacred relic. It writhes when you look at it. It wants to be noticed. Of course, you do the foolish thing. You kneel. As you do, the statues along the wall shift in unison, not visibly, but atmospherically. You know they've turned. You know their gazes are on the back of your neck. The whispering begins. Not external, inside ... behind your left eye. You were warned, it says, but never in words you understood. A bone-dry chuckle stirs the dust by your feet. You reach toward the pillow. Your hand hesitates just above the tongue. The air here feels sharp. Like a whisper-shaped blade, the Black Psalm of Vorther mentions this ritual, or so you've been told. Few know the verses, fewer survive them. It's said that the first prophet spat out his own tongue when he saw the unspeakable name written in fire beneath the skin of the moon. He replaced it with another, not a human tongue, not even a mortal one. No living scholar dares explain what kind of creature the prophet communed with. Only that afterward, the sky bled when he spoke, and that his followers began ... changing. You shouldn't touch it, so of course you do. The tongue wraps around your fingers like ivy. You jerk your hand back, but it clings, pulsing with a heartbeat not your own. The statues moan in collective approval ... Your mind fractures not like a glass, but like a mirror reflecting something else behind you. A memory surfaces, not yours, a child, kneeling before the same altar. Her mouth sewn shut, her eyes burned away. Still, she sings. The tongue pulls you forward, toward the circle of flesh robes. The fabric hisses against itself. They sound like dry teeth grinding. You stand inside the choir ring now, and then you see it. A carving beneath the skin folds, a hymn in script older than language. Let not the words escape the blood. Let not the silence outlive the scream. Let not the flesh forget its choir. Your ears ring. You hear humming from the statues. And then the prophet arrives, not with footsteps, with absence. A ripple in vision, a dead spot in your gaze, like looking at a painting that refuses to be interpreted. Where he stands, the world becomes less real. The stone's dull, the breath stalls. He wears no face. Or rather, he wears all of them, overlapping, shifting like oil over water. You recognize your own face among them for a second, and then it's gone. The prophet kneels beside you. He says nothing. His hands hover over your throat. The choir robes ripple. You open your mouth. The tongue leaps from your fingers into your mouth and lodges. It doesn't stop at your throat. It keeps going. It roots. The prophet hums, his many mouths moving in silence. And now you understand. You do not need lungs to speak. You do not need air to sing. You only need permission. The kind only silence can grant. You breathe in, and the walls listen. You try to exhale, but what leaves you is not breath. It is sound, not yours, not human. It slithers out of your throat like oil poured onto ice, black, slick, and cold. It coats the chapel's silence, seeps into the cracks between stone tiles, soaks the bones beneath the floor. You feel it ripple outward unseen, yet undeniably present. The prophet does not nod. He vanishes, gone, like smoke before the flame. And yet you're not alone. The statues step forward. Not walk, not stumble, step. Perfectly choreographed, 12 in unison. The sound of stone grating flesh. The hiss of robes that should not move. They form a circle around you now. Their mouths still open, their eyes still wide. You feel the tongue writhe behind your teeth. It's not uncomfortable anymore. It's home. A bell tolls in the distance, not from above, but from below the earth, below the chapel, below the truth, and something answers it. You hear movement beneath the obsidian altar. Something vast, slow, dragging chains made of ribs and remorse. You back away, but the statues close the circle. A single word hums in your skull. Preach. You don't know what it means, but your tongue does. It begins to move without permission. Your lips part. Your jaw stretches wider than it should, and from your mouth comes a voice not your own. The hymn returns, not soon but exhaled, just as before. But now it comes through you. You are the bell. You are the prophet's echo, and in the choir robes behind you, things begin to rise. You don't turn to look. You can't. Your body is a vessel now suspended between heartbeat and void. One of the statues leans forward. It opens its hands. Inside them, a small black book. Its pages flutter despite the still air. You recognize it, the blood scroll. No longer a myth whispered by candlelight. It exists, and it wants to be read. It must be read. You reach out. The instant your fingers touch it, the book binds to your palm, literally. Flesh fuses to cover. You cannot drop it. You open to the first page. It's blank. You blink, still blank. Then, like bruises blooming on skin, words rise to the surface. He who sings the unspeakable shall inherit the screen. More words bloom. She who listens shall never die nor ever sleep. And finally, it begins again. The page tears itself free and flutters into the air, spinning around you like a dead leaf. Then the next, each page writes itself as you flip through. Verses written in tongues you don't speak yet you understand. Your voice matches the symbols as they appear, even as your conscious mind shrinks back in revulsion. You're not reading, you're translating, and the cathedral listens. No, not the cathedral, the thing inside it. The hymn shifts, grows close. The words you speak now twist the air around you. The altar cracks down the middle. From the fissure, steam rises though it's cold. One statue weeps, another smiles. Your blood feels lighter, too light. You realize some of it is gone. Not spilled, just ... used. A cost of scripture, your tongue pulses. The prophet's tongue now, the blood scroll flares with fireless heat. You're on the final page, it reads. To end the black sermon, bite the sky, a strange phrase. You look up. There is no ceiling anymore, only clouds. Thick, rolling, bleeding light, the scroll closes itself. You've been given your sermon, now comes the sermon's price. You raise your face toward the bleeding sky. It weeps not water, but ash fine, gray motes that sting the eyes and salt the tongue. Each flake tastes like regret, like burnt offerings. Like the names of those never meant to be spoken aloud, the statues lower their heads. In reverence, in fear, perhaps both, above you. The clouds ripple like stretched skin, veins of gold and rot pulse across the heavens, twitching with each syllable you've spoken. Your hands shake, but the scroll won't release you. Its cover remains fused to your palm, warm and wet like the belly of some animal just before birth. The wine begins to hum, not howl, not rush, hum, hello. Throat-borne drone that matches the key of your own breath. It harmonizes with your blood, sinks to your pulse, coils around the bones in your throat. You feel yourself rising now, being lifted. Invisible hands press against your ribs, your back, your knees. They cradle you like a prophet, like prey. You hover inches off the stone floor, suspended in a prayer you didn't know you knew. Your jaw unlocks further than it should. The tongue inside you stretches. And you do what the scroll commanded. You bite the sky. Your mouth widens and bites down on a screen. You can't hear a scream too large to be perceived by ears. Something ruptures above. The clouds tear like flesh split by hooked wire. And beyond them, there is no heaven. No stars, no blackness, only eyes, thousands. Blinking and blinking, some set in spirals, some fused shut by flesh. They gaze down through the tear you've made in the world. One of them winks, you fall, not downward, inward. The cathedral inverts, and the world folds like paper soaked in blood. The stones become feathers, the altar becomes bone. You land hard back in your body, now kneeling, mouth closed, scroll gone. But something's different. The air is warmer. The ash has stopped falling. The statues are weeping. And your tongue is no longer yours. You test your speech. The words come out backward. They echo before you say them. The blood scroll has changed you. You know things you didn't a moment ago, forbidden things. Like the location of the prophet's burial tomb. Like the reason the angels weep every third night in the crypts of Valak. Like the name of the child who never stopped singing even after they sealed her in lead. And more urgently, you know that the sermon has begun. Not here, elsewhere, it spreads like mold. Like hunger, like music, and something comes with it. A being too vast to dwell in flesh. A hunger older than history. The black sermon, you now understand, is not a hymn. It's a door, and you just opened it. A dry voice speaks behind you, not aloud, inside your teeth. The mouth is ready, the throat is wide. Let the silence scream. You turn, the chapel is empty. No statues, no ropes, no scroll, just one thing, a child's drawing, scratched into the stone with what looks like a fingernail. A stick figure with a round, black mouth, and a single phrase written beneath. We all speak now. You feel your shadow flicker. Not from candlelight, from the thing that just blinked behind your eyes. You're not alone in your skin. You stagger to your feet, and the chapel greets you with silence, but not absence, like it's breathing. You don't remember swallowing it, but it remembers you. Somewhere behind your ears, a choir hums in reverse. Their voices climb and descend simultaneously. Notes colliding like moths against flame. You tilt your head, trying to locate the source, but the sound isn't coming from anywhere. It's inside your name. You feel it settle at the base of your spine, coiling around your vertebrae like a leash. There's a door at the back of the chapel that wasn't there before, of course, because now the sermon has begun. You step toward it. It doesn't open. It unzips. No handle, no hinges. Just a scene, wet and red and pulsing like a vein. You press your palm to it. It parts like lips. You enter. The corridor beyond is stitched together from bone and scripture. The walls whisper verses you don't recognize, yet your mouth repeats them anyway. You can't stop. You don't want to. As you walk, the corridor narrows. Not physically, conceptually. There are fewer possibilities here. Each step limits you, reduces your futures. There is no turning back. Behind you, your footprints bleed. You do not hear your own footsteps. But you hear others, lighter, smaller. Children, laughing, almost. Except, not quite, not laughter, mocking. You know that laugh. You've heard it in dreams you never remembered. It belongs to those who swallowed the tongue before you. The ones who didn't survive it. You will, probably. The corridor opens into a chamber shaped like a broken bell. Inside, an altar of teeth. Around it, robed figures, silent and moving. Hollow as carved where faces once were. Each holds a different sacred object. A chain made of infant ribs, a lantern lit with moths. A quill made from a bishop's finger bone. And at the center, a child. Not a child, the child. She's sitting cross-legged, smiling. Her mouth sewn shut, yet you hear her sing. A lullaby older than language it shouldn't carry, but it does. It vibrates inside your lungs like smoke in a closed room. Her voice lifts, the walls crack, the air ripples. And from your chest, your new tongue answers. You sing with her, unbidden, unwilling, and questioned. The robed figures sway, their fingers twitch. Their hollow faces tilt. They are listening. Worse, they are learning. The lullaby teaches the shape of silence. It instructs the air on how to scream. You fall to your knees, you weep. But it's not tears that fall, it's letters. Each tear hits the floor and unrolls into a word you'll never understand. And still the girl sings. You want to beg her to stop. But your voice isn't yours anymore. The prophet's tongue has no mercy. Only song, the chamber tilts ... The altar of teeth opens its mouth. You realize it was never an altar. It was a head. The lullaby was its key. And now it awakens. What you thought was architecture shifts, reforms, flexes. The chapel is alive. The scroll wasn't a book. It was a seed, and you just watered it. The girl stops singing. She looks at you. Her sewn lips curl into a smile. She nods. Your job is done. Your sermon is delivered. And now ... Now you listen. You try to stand, but the floor won't let you. It pulses beneath your knees, slow and damp, like a tongue deciding whether to swallow. Stone should not flex. But this floor was never stone, was it? It was waiting. The girl's song has ended, but the echoes remain. Not echoes, instructions. They curl around your thoughts like creeping ivy, rooting into the marrow of your awareness. With every breath, you lose something, a memory, a name. A word you thought you'd never forget. You've forgotten your own face. Don't worry, you won't need it. The altar, that gaping mouth of bone and scripture moans. It's a long, low exhale, like a cathedral breathing out its dead. Something ancient shifts beneath the floor. Not far, just beneath the skin of the room. You feel the sermon enter your bloodstream. The syllables throb with you now, and then motion. The girl stands. Her limbs move like puppet strings pulled by prayer. Her sewn lips bleed lightly as she smiles wider. She does not blink. She beckons. Behind her, a door unseals from the far wall. You didn't see it there before, though the bloodstains leading to it suggest you should have. One of the robed figures turns. Their face is blank bone. Yet you know they're watching you, judging your pace. Measuring your hesitation, you walk. Each step hums a note of the sermon. By the time you reach the door, your feet sing in harmony. It opens before you touch it. The hallway beyond is narrow and comfortably so, like a throat. The walls are veined with text, twitching slightly. You run your fingers along them. The words recoil like they've been burned. One phrase remains etched in your palm. We do not preach, we awaken. The corridor curves. You pass alcoves. Each holds a sermon deliverer like you. Or what remains. One has no mouth, just ink leaking from their eyes. Another has split down the middle, like a book cracked far. One whispers without end, though their lungs are ash. You walk faster, and then a room. Wider than it should be, wider than the architecture allows. It doesn't match the space you've traveled through, because this space doesn't exist in geometry anymore. This is where the black sermon gathers. Pews made of nailed-together limbs, a lectern of stitched spines. Windows show nothing but writhing script scrolls in agony, pressed like insects against invisible glass. In the center, a choir. They sing, but the sound doesn't travel through your ears. It travels through your teeth. The sermon vibrates your bones, carves understanding into your enamel. You try to block it out. You can't. Their lyrics are made of memory ... Your memory. They're singing your birth cry. Your first lie, your last unspoken secret. You fall again, but the floor doesn't catch you this time. You float in the sound. The sermon cradles you in meaning that burns. You see cities you've never visited collapse under silence. You see a throne of tongues, empty. You see yourself, seated upon it. The girl enters behind you. She nods once more. The choir falls silent. And now they wait for you to continue the black sermon. To speak the unspeakable, you open your mouth. Not because you want to, because you're made to. And the first word isn't a word. It's a door. It opens, and something listens. You do not remember standing. You only remember the sound, the not sound that answered you. It didn't come through the door. It was the door. And now the space inside your head is crowded. Your thoughts skitter to the corners like rats caught in the sudden candlelight of divine scrutiny. You are not alone, not even in your bones. They crawl through your memories now, not cruelly, curiously, like archivists turning pages that were never meant to be read. The fingers are not metaphor. Your scalp itches where invisible hands part thought from thought. The congregation stares. They have no eyes, but they stare. And you speak, not in words, not in language. You utter something more ancient than structure, a truth so base it dissolves syllables. It is not allowed to be remembered, only endured. The choir exhales in unison, not breath, but dust. Their lungs, long since hollowed, are now flutes of bone tuned to your tone. The room adjusts. The walls lean forward slightly, listening, leaning closer. As though the building itself wants in on the secret now escaping you. One by one, the congregation begins to kneel. You do not tell them to. You don't have to. Because you've spoken the first verse. And with it, you have rewound the silence. You feel time slip at the edges of your skin. Your shadow now lags behind you by a few seconds. It shudders, unsure which present to belong to. At your feet, the pulpit glows. No flame, no candle. Only a soft illumination from beneath, like truth blooming beneath filth. You step forward. A book lies open, splayed like a dissected beast. Its pages writhe, rearrange, then still. Your name is there, not your earthly name. No, that's long since burned out of memory. This one is deeper, older, more correct. The name your soul was assigned before breath made you forget. You speak it aloud. The pews tremble. Your voice does not echo at Enka's. The room freezes. And something hears you, not in the room. Not above, below. The earth tenses. Like skin about to blister, you feel it rising. Or perhaps, remembering, they said it was buried. They lied. It was only waiting. The Black Psalm of Vorther mentions this moment, but only in the margins. It cautions, should the verse be spoken, let the earth feign death, let it lie still. Pray it remains still. But you didn't pray, did you? A tremor now, just one. A hairline fracture dances across the pulpit. The bones holding the ceiling creak not from age, but anticipation. The choir sings again. Their song bends reality. The stained glass begins to melt dripping color, not heat. The images depicted a saint's martyrdom. A demon's fall run together like blood on parchment. And then you hear it, a single footstep. But not in the room. Inside you, something ancient has stepped into you. Worn you like a hymn wears a cathedral. And the others see it. They do not recoil. They smile. Their teeth fall out, but they smile. You step back, not in fear, in ceremony. This is the part where the mouth of the sermon walks, and it must walk downward. Beneath the pulpit, the floor peels back like wet paper. A stairwell spiraling, bone white, yet slick. Down you go. You notice something strange. You're humming, not because you want to. Because the sermon continues, and so do you. The stairs spiral like a serpent chewing its own screen. You descend without counting steps. You couldn't if you tried. Some repeat, some vanish. The ones that weren't there a moment ago now carry the dust of centuries. And still you hum, or rather, it hums through you. The tune unspools from your throat like thread from a weeping loom. It's familiar in the way hunger is familiar, ancient, rhythmic, unavoidable. The stone walls close in, but only when you're not looking. When your eyes drift even slightly, they're closer. Damp breath curls along your shoulders, though nothing exhales. You pass a niche in the wall, a cradled relic, its bones arranged in concentric circles. They twitch as you pass. A vertebra clicks into place not yours. The stairs end, or no, they stop permitting descent. Ahead, a narrow archway with no door. The threshold is etched in language older than sound, not carved. Grown, symbols ripple like muscle beneath the stone skin, twitching when your gaze lingers. You step through. The chamber opens like a yawn into rot. Its ceiling drips ink, not metaphorical ink reel, living, whispering ink. It drips from roots that slither in and out of stone, each line a sentence never meant to be read aloud. A pool of this ink forms at the center of the room, thick as grief, glossy as truth. It doesn't reflect you, It reflects your intentions. You glance down and see violence. You blink, it becomes hunger. You step closer. The black psalm of Vorthur warned about this room. The pool of reflection will not lie. It will only weep, and in its weeping, reveal the names of the unspoken. Beneath the ink's surface, bones float. Small ones, finger bones, teeth, eyelid cartilage. Each bears a sigil. Some are familiar. You've drawn them in dreams. Others make your stomach knot in unfamiliar alphabets. You reach out, the ink recoils, then clings. It reaches up your wrist like an eager disciple. You pull back, but it resists, not hostile, just expectant. You let it take more. It laps at your shoulder like a loyal dog. Something hidden within you exhales finally. From the far end of the chamber, a figure emerges. It's not walking. It's being remembered into existence. Clerical robes hang like wet drapery. The sleeves end in shadows. Its face is a mask of bone, but not human, elongated, cracked. The jaw is split down the center, barely held by black stitching. It speaks, and you understand, not the words, the intent. It is asking, will you deliver the sermon? Will you let them hear? The choice is an illusion. Your spine aches. Not with pain, with readiness. You nod, it reaches forward. From its ribs, it pulls a scroll, bound in red string, trembling slightly. It's not parchment. Its skin, still warm, the blood scroll. The figure offers it reverently. When you touch it, your fingers sting not from heat, but recognition. It knows you, every piece, every betrayal you buried, every song you silenced, you accept it. And the figure vanishes not backward, but sideways, folding into a place behind your understanding. The ink withdraws from your body in obedient silence. Alone again, but now you carry the scroll. It hums faintly, not with melody but memory. It remembers the sky before it cracked. You tuck it beneath your robes. No door appears, no guide descends. Just the quiet stir of air as the walls shift. You notice the stairs behind you are gone. Instead, a corridor unfurls, narrow, flickering with the heartbeat of dying candles, though no flame burns. The wax drips upward. The shadows do not mimic your movements. They write their own. You walk forward, and with every step, the sermon seeps deeper. Every time your foot touches stone, you remember another verse. You do not know the verses yet, but you will, one by one. They will rise from the marrow and speak through you. You feel the first syllable birthing itself on your tongue, like a tooth breaking skin. From above, faintly you hear bells. They do not ring. They bleed, and you know the congregation is gathering again. They are waiting for you, for the next verse, for the unspeakable. And you will give it to them. The corridor winds like a confession, half whispered, half screamed. You move with purpose now, if purpose can be inherited rather than chosen. The blood scroll clings to you beneath your robes, pulsing not with life, but with expectation. Each bead is a knuckle rapped against the ribs of your sanity, knocking in rhythm with a sermon not yet spoken. The air thickens. You taste copper, old paper, and something else birth, not life, but the tearing open of something that was better left sealed. The corridor narrows, tightens, breathes. The walls sweating, you try not to touch them, but they lean closer. One shivers when your shoulder brushes its surface. Something moans behind the stones. Not human, not dead, just trapped. You don't look back. You don't want to see whose mouth is pressed to the other side of the wall. Ahead, a doorway. Rounded like the mouth of a cathedral, but warped, it slouches. As if ashamed of what it once sanctified, the door is missing. Only a velvet curtain stitched with black thread remains. It sways, though no wind moves. The fabric breathes in, then exhales your name. Not the one you speak aloud, the one you buried after the incident. You push through, a chapel, ruined. The pews are ash, still smoldering, rows of them perfectly aligned. Burned down to gray skeletons. The floor is black glass, cracked in spider vein lines that pulse faintly with scripture. You recognize none of it, but your knees do. They ache with ancient genuflections. You drop before you mean to, and the floor greets your flesh with the chill of forgotten ritual. The altar stands, crooked, split diagonally like a wound forced to remain open. Upon it, a tongue, not fresh, not rotting. Somewhere between, it's mounted in a frame of teeth, each still humming with the words they once shaped. This is where it happened, where they swallowed the prophet's tongue, where the black sermon began. You feel it coiling in your chest, the inherited guilt, the desperate awe, the ache of witnessing. You're not supposed to be here, not yet, and yet. The space rearranges around your presence like a body yielding to a long-lost limb. You approach the altar, the tongue twitches. Not a tremor, but a gesture, an invitation. Your fingers hover, but the blood scroll unfurls itself, pages rustling like gossip. The script glows dimly, each word a wound. You don't recognize the language, but your jaw does. Your mouth opens. Your tongue splits painlessly, deliberately, a forking road of flesh and faith. You speak. The words are not yours, but they are about you. The air trembles, the chapel moans. The ash shadows in the pews sit straighter. Not alive, not listening, just closer. Your voice deepens, hollowed. The walls bleed something paler than blood. You say the first true verse. At Vaster Newman, Kalazetor, Suan Varth. You don't know what it means, but the tongue on the altar smiles. You didn't know tongues could smile. A low ring shudders the floor. The cracked glass between your knees glows faintly. From below, a shape, a face, no many. Faces of all the prophets before you. All blind, all screaming silently, all mouthing the same word. Continue, you do another verse. The chapel dims, the ash shifts, a row of teeth gleams in a broken pew. And then you feel them, the congregation. They are here, not corporeal, not imagined, just present, 1,000 souls bound to their places. Eyes removed, tongues burned, ears cut to better hear the unspeakable. Bound by marrow and melody, they do not move, but you feel them lean forward, one more verse. The scroll sizzles in your hands, the altar splits further. The tongue on its surface begins to rot, but backwards restoring itself with each syllable. You are undoing something awful, which means you're doing something worse. The sermon ends, for now, the blood scroll rolls shut. The congregation exhales, not breath, not praise, but memory. The ash settles, the glass dims. The faces in the floor disappear, and the chapel tilts slightly to the left, acknowledging your place in its lineage. From the rear wall, a new corridor opens. It was not there before. It is wet breathing, hung with chains that rattle without movement. The blood scroll pulses once more, approving. Perhaps you rise, your knees bleed ink. The voices follow you now, not screaming, not whispering. Reciting your words, you walk. The black sermon has begun. And you're only on verse 1. The corridor accepts you like a throat does a blade. You step forward, swallowed not just by stone and shadow, but by intention. The air is thick with mildew and memory sharp, cloying. Familiar in that wrong kind of comfort you feel when something horrible pretends to welcome you. The walls breathe again, but this time, not alone. They whisper, they chant your verse. Still slick from your tongue, at Vaster Newman. Kalazetor, Suan Varth, again and again. The cadence twists subtly with each repetition. The words start folding inward. Syllables sloughing off like rotten fruit, revealing something beneath. Something raw, hungrier. Your feet make no sound on the floor, yet the corridor echoes without you. It remembers someone else, or it pretends to, a priest, a prophet, or perhaps just another who recited words they should have choked on. The chain-hung walls tremble with anticipation, as if flinching in advance of what comes next. A door ... at least, you think it's a door. It's made of fingers, bone fingers, jointed and yellow, laced together in prayer. Each digit ends in a nail that curves inward like teeth. You watch one twitch as you approach, just one, enough. You reach forward with a hand that isn't fully yours anymore. You notice this too late. The scroll's ink has leached into your palm, threading black veins through your skin. Your hand shakes not from fear, but from memory. The memory of opening this same door in another lifetime. You press, the fingers part. Behind the door is silence. True silence, not the absence of sound, but the murder of it. Even your breath refuses to leave your lungs here, not out of fear, out of reverence. The chamber is spherical, carved into the stone like a cyst. Floating at its center an orb, it rotates slowly, its surface rippling like liquid trapped in a membrane. You see faces in it. Not reflected, trapped. One of them looks like yours, but older, scarred, crying black tears. You step inside. The orb quivers, a voice, inside your skull this time. The verse is remembered. The voice is chosen. The sermon proceeds. You should not understand the language, you do. It's the same tongue that whispered your name during fevered dreams as a child. The same tongue that knotted itself in your throat during your first communion. The same tongue your grandmother bit clean through in her sleep before they buried her mouth sewn shut. You reach out. The orb recedes. You step forward again. The orb pulls back. But the rune does not extend. Instead, the orb splits. Down the center like an egg, inviting you to be born again. Inside, a throne, bone polished, too small for comfort, too large for denial. It waits, so do you, and then the chains on the walls begin to sway. Not randomly, rhythmically. A beat, a heart, a summons. The congregation is returning. You feel them before you see them, shadowed figures slinking through corridors unseen, called by the verse. Some walk, some crawl. One, you think, moves by bleeding forward. With every pulse of its body, it inches closer. You take the throne. You don't remember deciding to. The seat embraces you cold at first, then wet, then indistinguishable from your spine. The orb shatters. Shards hover around your head like a crown made of condemned stars. You speak the second verse. Your voice isn't your own. Eshtalar Weni Marthak, et Orant Dish. The chains still. The air freezes. From behind the broken walls, figures emerge, clergy, once, or the memory of them. Mouthless, eyeless, some missing hands, others missing their reflections. They bow in perfect synchronicity, not to you, to the throne. But the throne has chosen you, so they bow to you now. A rope slides from the ceiling like skin molting from a sealing wound. You catch it before it hits the floor. It's warm, woven from prayer strips and silence. Each strip stitched with names, some scratched out, some still bleeding through the ink. You recognize one. It's yours, carved backward. You wear it. It clings like faith. Tight and constricting, like guilt, the congregation begins to hum. Low, vibratory, like insects nesting inside your lungs. You rise from the throne. The fragments of the orb pierce your skin. They embed, they vanish. Now the verses are inside you, etched into meat. A third verse boils behind your eyes, but you do not speak it, not yet. The door behind the clergy creaks open. Something limps through, its joints bend wrong. Its robes drag behind like a blood-wet apology. You know it, no face, no name, just function, the tongue weeper. It carries a tray of tongues, all still twitching. It stops before you, waits, you reach for one. It squirms, tries to leap off the tray, but your fingers grip like scripture. You raise it to your mouth. It doesn't want to go, but it knows it must. The moment it touches your tongue, it melts ... and you scream, but not aloud. Inward, a scream made of every lie you've ever told yourself. And then clarity, the third verse unfurls across your teeth. Your congregation weeps blood. They are ready, and so are you. The floor shifts, not beneath you, within you. You stand, but your bones remember kneeling. The throne has relinquished you, but not without imprint. Your spine crackles with the residual echo of a dozen extinct sermons. You hear them still. They crowd your vertebrae, whispering up the nape of your neck. The third verse pulses behind your molars, begging to be sung, but you must walk first. The tongue weeper slithers away, tray now glistening with saliva and silence. Its limbs fold inward as it melts into the shadows, becoming part of the corridor again. Perhaps it never left. Perhaps it was always waiting. You step forward. The congregation parts, not physically but in possibility. The chamber twists, elongates. The altar does not move, yet recedes. Distance becomes suggestion, space a lie told by weary geometry. A staircase reveals itself. It descends. Of course it does. Your body remembers since you never committed but would have, given the chance. The rope tightens. It feeds on guilt. You pass a window. There should be none, and yet it exists, a long, vertical slit in the stone wall, beyond which there is no sky, only a wound. It bleeds stars. One drips onto the windowsill. It hisses as it touches the stone, leaving behind a glyph that writhes before scabbing into runes. The name it spells is yours. But only for this night. You descend. Below, the choir waits. They do not sing yet. They breathe just that, a synchronized inhalation, every chest rising and falling in perfect cadence, as though death had taught them rhythm. They are children, or something that used to be. Tiny robes, hollowed eye sockets, mouths sewn shut but twitching as though gnawing on invisible songs. They feel your third verse like a scent. Like hunger, they line both sides of the aisle. Unmoving, you walk between them. The floor beneath your steps hums reactive stone, tuned to the tones of the black psalm. From the walls, faces carved, now pressed. People pressed into the stone like flowers between the pages of a forgotten hymn book. Their eyes follow you, their mouths open as you pass, exhaling old breath. Some whisper verses incorrectly. You correct them simply by being present. The choir twitches in approval. At the aisle's end. A pulpit. More bone than wood, more vein than craft. Behind it. A mirror, tall, narrow, cracked in 6 places. You do not see your reflection. You see the verses. The black psalm of Vorther, written in fog on glass. The forbidden stanza, the one no living voice has dared to shape. Until now, you step behind the pulpit. Your hands splay across its surface, bone fitting into bone like an inheritance rediscovered. The choir rises, not feet, not even levitating, uplifted, as though gravity itself now reveres your authority. You breathe in, the words bloom like thorns in your throat. You speak the third verse, Sirth Amen Kalath, and Dravur Mar Alsith. The mirror cracks further, the children scream. But the sound does not escape their mouths. It pours into your ears, flooding your memory. You drown in moments you've never lived, being born with your mouth stitched shut, scratching verses into the walls of your mother's womb, being burned for saying the same verse in a past life, biting out your tongue just to prove you are unworthy of the next stanza. You stagger, the pulpit bleeds, the mirror shatters outward, not inward. The shards hover midair, rearranging. Not into your reflection, into your audience. You see them now. The congregation beyond the children, those who dwell in the deeper pews. Shapes cloaked in tithes and tattered scripture. Faces obscured not by hoods, but by absence. They have none, just suggestion, just hunger. They begin to rise, one by one. The sermon continues. But you are no longer alone. You look to the choir. Their mouths open, not sewn shut anymore. The thread is gone, replaced by teeth. Too many, far too many, they sing. It is not music. It is explanation of truths that rot sanity, of names that unmake tongues, of colors that unsee the eye. The verses wrap around your spine and twist pleasure, penance, prayer, all the same shape now. The pulpit dissolves beneath your fingers, liquefying into ink. It seeps through your robe, into your skin, writes itself across your ribcage. The next verse awakens inside your lungs. You cough black, the children kneel. The deeper congregation bows, and behind the shattered mirror, something watches. Not a god, a listener. Your voice has summoned its interest. The next words must be perfect. You descend again, yes, again. Another stairwell reveals itself, bleeding ink. As you pass the kneeling choir, one grabs your ankle. You pause, it rasps a word. Hurry, the black sermon, once begun, cannot pause. But it can be outrun. And something has started chasing. You run. The verse in your lungs hisses with every step. Yet another chamber. A circular atrium of mouths, dozens, hundreds, all around the walls. Whispering, hungry, expectant. The next stage waits, and you. You're still not afraid, but you should be. You cross the threshold, not into another room, into a mouth. The atrium inhales as you enter, a low suction sound dragging behind you like the last gasp of an extinguished hymn. The walls ripple, not with breath, but with expectation. Lips sewn into the stone begin to tremble, their mouths twitching in anticipation. The floor glistens, not with polish, but with saliva. Every step you take echoes not with sound, but with wet approval. The circle of mouths surrounds you, each one different. Some wide and toothless, muttering prayers in dialects older than time. Others lined with jagged teeth, none of them human. A few don't open at all, instead blinking, as if the concept of mouths had been misinterpreted by whatever designed this place. A voice greets you not from one mouth, but from all of them at once. Verse 4 has not been sung since the moon wept backward. You don't remember learning it, but you know it. The rope tightens again, constricting like reverence or guilt. A second voice, a female one, cuts through the static of whispers. Clear and broken, and yours, not from your throat. From the walls, from the mouths, your lullaby. The one you've never sung aloud, the one you've only heard in dreams. Hummed to you by a woman whose face you've never seen, just remembered by the smell of scorched parchment and funeral roses. She hums it now, it bleeds from every mouth in harmony. You collapse to your knees, the mouths begin to change. Teeth fall out, one by one, not with a clatter but with purpose. Each molar, incisor, canine clicks as it lands, forming a perfect circle around you, a glyph, the binding. The fourth verse claws its way up your esophagus, dragging behind its syllables made of salt and memory. You speak, but it is not speech. It is permission, Vaskar and Talith. Sarnorve, the ceiling opens. Not by splitting, by peeling, like the skin of a fruit long ignored. Light pours in, but not from above. From beneath the sky, a black star, pulsing, suspended upside down from the heavens. It sees you, it speaks, no words, just sound. It bypasses your ears and writes directly on the surface of your brain. You convulse. Your body lifts, not with grace, but like a marionette yanked by cruel strings. The mouths chant faster now. Some rupture from overuse, spilling out tongues, none of which stay still. They slither toward you, not to bind, to feed. But not on flesh, on secrets. You feel your thoughts leaking. You try to remember your name, and all you get is the taste of ash and bells. You try to recall your home, and your skin peels in protest. You are not allowed memories in the presence of the fourth verse, only truths. You hover higher, now inverted, your head nearly kissing the glyph of teeth below you, your feet pointing toward the black star above. The lullaby continues, but it changes, no longer soft, no longer soothing, it sharpens. Becomes command, and now the mouths fall silent. All of them, you speak the fourth verse. Not to the room, to the star, it shudders, bleeds. You open your mouth and a sliver of it enters you, a piece of celestial nerve, cold as the void between seconds. It coils behind your eyes, whispers a name not yours. Not yet, but soon, the room begins to unravel. Not collapse, dash, unravel, ... The stone decays into letters. The air curdles into sentences. The mouths fall away like punctuation stripped from a forgotten draft of creation. You fall downward, but not physically. You fall deeper into the verse. The glyph implodes, the teeth scatter. One lodges in your shoulder. You feel it humming, like a promise. You wake, except you never slept. You're on your feet. The room is gone. But the star is not. It hangs behind your vision now, like an off-to-reach burned into your consciousness. You'll never be rid of it. You try to breathe. It laughs inside you. The verse is not over. It's only become aware. The robes crackle. You hear pages turning, not in a book but in your bones. Your ribs have become parchment. Each breath writes a line. The black psalm is rewriting itself inside you. A door appears, or perhaps a mouth pretending to be a door. It yawns, within it, the stairwell again. This one is made of knuckles. The bones are etched with regrets. You recognize one your own. You step onto it. It sighs. You begin to descend. Behind you, the mouths murmur again, but this time, they do not speak in tongues. They say your name, the one you haven't learned yet. And in the distance, far below the bone stairwell, a bell rings. Its chime is wet, like something crying inside a throat that no longer belongs to a body. The black sermon continues, and you start to forget what silence ever felt like. The stairwell spirals deeper, each step a joint a memory, none of them yours, not initially. You descend through a corridor of murmurs, the walls muttering prayers in broken cadence. Some syllables belong to forgotten gods, others to unborn ones. You pass a femur embedded with runes, glowing faintly. You recognize one of the glyphs not from study, but from the underside of your own fingernails. It's always been there, waiting to be read. The stair tightens now, not narrower, hungrier. Your steps sink ever so slightly into the bone. Like dough pressed into a mold, you suspect the staircase is learning your tread. Somewhere above, you left behind the mouths. But one followed. You feel it nestled beneath your collarbone. Breathing, occasionally licking, you do not speak of it, neither does it. Ahead, a hollow opens. The air shifts, not wind, but alignment. The space rearranges itself around your presence. The chamber is circular, domed, walls papered in stretched vellum. Upon closer inspection, not paper, skin still warm. Each parchment marked with script written in inverted blood. You don't know how you can tell it's inverted, but you do. The letters coil in directions the human eye was never meant to track. In the center of the chamber sits a plinth, upon it a chalice, brimming, not with wine, not blood, ink, and not from any wellspring of this world. The scent hits you sharp, nostalgic, and wrong, like library dust mixed with funeral oil and something distinctly metallic. You understand without instruction that to proceed, you must drink. The chalice does not beckon, it demands. You lift it, it hisses, as though disturbed from slumber. The surface tension of the ink ripples, revealing reflections that aren't yours. Faces long dead, one of them moves, blinks, smiles. Without lips, you drink and scream. Not aloud, your mouth is sealed the moment the ink touches your tongue. No, you scream in writing. Your scream manifests on the walls. New lines scratch themselves across the skin parchment in real time. Your anguish becomes text, and the chamber reads you back. The ink swirls inside your body, finds the crevices of your past, and begins blotting them out. Your first kiss becomes a sigil. Your mother's laugh becomes a curse. Your worst mistake becomes a prophecy, one already fulfilled, and now the silence is broken. Not by mouths, but by pages. They flutter in from all directions, torn sheets of skin lore, spiraling like bats. They don't land, they circle, watching. Then, impact, one strikes your face. It clings, adheres, you try to peel it away, but your skin rebels, it recognizes the page as kin. Another hits your chest, another, your spine. You are being dressed, bound. The butcher's folio is not a book. It's a vestment. You are the next volume. As each page affixes itself to you, more knowledge seeps in with every attachment. A new verse of the Black Sermon unfurls inside your marrow. You now know what happened to the first archivist, and the second, and the seventh. The third was erased by choice. The fifth never truly existed. The sixth was you in another draft. You feel them all in your bones now. They itch, the walls buckle. A new door appears, not wood, not stone, teeth. Molars stacked into an archway, incisors forming the hinges. It grins at you, of course it does. You enter. Inside, silence, but not emptiness. The room is filled with statues, children, frozen mid-play, each one carved in bone. Each face eerily lifelike, one turns ever so slightly as you pass. The others follow, none move, but they reposition. The game is clear. You're now at the center of the bone playground is a seesaw. Balanced atop it sits a single book, open to a blank page. You kneel, you do not write, you bleed, the blood writes for you. It inscribes your next line, not to the world, to yourself. A lie about why you came here, a lie about who you really are. A lie you'll believe until your final breath unless the pages decide otherwise. Behind you, one of the bone children whispers your name. The real one. You turn, it's gone. You feel a tap on your shoulder. Nothing there, another, then a chorus of giggles. And teeth, always teeth, the room dims. Your pulse sinks with the flickering of unseen candles. Your mouth opens, you don't speak. You hum the fifth verse. The statues sway in unison, the book drinks every note. It is sated ... for now, but you're not done. You feel the next chapter pushing against the inside of your skull, desperate to be written. Another door, this one stitched shut with crimson thread. It quivers as you approach. From the other side, a sound like laughter. Or weeping, or both, you press your hand against the seam. The thread frays, it wants you in. The walls whisper, your name is inked now. And it is, you part the seam. The stitched door resists at first, threads snapping one by one, each twang like a scream muffled beneath velvet. When the final stitch breaks, it does not fall. It bleeds, not outward, but inward, as though the void itself were drawing in the remnants of resistance. You step into a corridor lined not with torches or lanterns, but open eyes. Each socket pulses faintly. No two eyes are alike, some human, others distinctly not. Many blink out of rhythm, scanning you, judging your movement, perhaps recognizing you. One weeps, you walk. The air thickens, not with heat or smoke, but certainty you were always meant to be here. You never had a choice, not from the first time you touched a book you shouldn't have, not from the first dream where the ink bled backward. There is music here, faint and unsettling, wine chimes made of teeth, hanging from invisible rafters, clinking softly as though stirred by a breath no longer drawn. You pass a mirror, it shows you seated. Not standing, as you are, not walking, just seated. Hands folded neatly, eyes missing. The reflection grins, you do not, you pass another mirror. This one shows you from behind except you haven't turned around. The hallway bends now, impossibly. It curves like a ribcage around you, narrowing. You are being swallowed again. You feel the pressure behind your ears. A word forces its way into your skull, talum. You know it means nothing, which is precisely why it means everything. The corridor ends at a platform. Beyond it, a pit bottomless. You look down not into darkness, but into script. Infinite layers of scripture whirl beneath you, a vortex of language devouring itself. A voice rises from the pit, feminine, familiar. It speaks not to you, but through you. Verse 6 is the key. You understand without being told. You must jump. No one commands you, but the verse demands. You fall, not quickly. The descent takes hours or seconds depending on which clock your mind obeys. Along the way, pages flit past your cheeks like bats with broken wings. Some whisper, some bite. You land without impact, just arrival, a new chamber. Hexagonal, vaulted, the walls inscribed with languages that smell like charred flowers and sour ink. At the center, a lectern carved from petrified hearts. Upon it rests a skull. It speaks, you are behind schedule. You try to apologize. Your lips are gone, replaced by a lattice of thin bone, like woven ivory. The skull doesn't mind. It continues. The prophet's tongue was a key, not metaphorical. Not poetic, literal. It opened the vault. It sang the sermon into being. And then it screamed. You wonder where the tongue is now. You don't have to wonder long. The drawer beneath the lectern creaks open. Inside, a jar suspended in brine, stitched with runes. Twitching despite the seal, the tongue of the prophet. Still aware, still humming, you pick it up. It hisses against the glass, fogging it with ancient breath. You hear the black verse in your veins again. You know what you must do. You lift the jar, tilt it. The tongue slithers into your hand willingly. It coils up your arm, then into your mouth. Not down your throat, up behind your eyes. It settles behind your thoughts and smiles. You speak. Not words, but the unspeakable. Every eye in the hallway you left behind screens shut. The mirrors crack. Somewhere, the chimes fall silent. And your reflection weeps, the skull cracks. From its fracture pours not bone dust but music. The seventh verse, you now contain it. You are no longer you. You are a line in the blood scroll. A chapter bound in prophecy and parchment flesh. Your fingers curl backward, not in pain, but in ritual. They now bend the wrong way to better turn Forbidden's pages. Behind you, the corridor reforms. But it's upside down now. You walk it anyway. Because you've always walked it. That's the trick of the sermon. It doesn't begin when sung. It begins when remembered, and you remember perfectly. The walls bleed applause. The ink behind your eyes congeals into new verses, waiting to be read aloud. And somewhere deeper, far beneath where this chapter ends, the tongue still twitches longing for another voice soon. The choir awakens, not with breath, but with withered memory. They do not rise, for they were never truly laid down. Instead, their robes unfurl like dying flowers, and the choir boys emerge not aged, not youthful, not human anymore. Just voices in flesh that forgot how to forget. Their mouths are stitched in silence, yet the air trembles with song. You step into the chamber where they stand not gathered in pews, but suspended from wires of sinew stretched from wall to wall. Like marionettes left in mid-note, their feet don't touch the ground. Their shadows do ... Each boy is hollow at the throat. Not damaged, modified. The Black Psalm of Vorthur describes this chamber, the contour's womb, a place not meant to be entered, only echoed. It is said those who walk its halls leave behind a version of their voice, one that sings even after they've ceased breathing. You see it now, floating just ahead, a whisper-shaped thing, your voice, separated, mouthing phrases you haven't yet spoken. The chamber shifts, rotating without motion. Suddenly, the floor is the ceiling, then neither, then both. Gravity is a courtesy here, not a law. You hear the first note of the Black Sermon again. But this time, it's not music, it's architecture. The tone itself lays new corridors ahead of you, every sustained hum growing doors, every silence birthing staircases, and just like that, the choir sings. Not forward, but backward, not in pitch, but in hunger. The song flays your sense of time. You're remembering tomorrow, forgetting yesterday, every note on it's one of your regrets. Soon, you will be nothing but raw intention and exposed desire. The lead choir boy, if one can be named in this symphony of ruin, begins to vibrate. His jaw splits like a hymn book opening too wide. Inside, you see not tongue nor teeth, but a bell. The bell rings, it tolls inside your chest. You cough ink, of course, and the air thickens with forgotten nursery rhymes. The ones they sang in the village before the fire, the ones no one remembers teaching you. One of the choir boys smiles, his teeth are carved with scripture. Not on the surface, inside the enamel. You lean in, the words shift, you see your name. Not the one you use now, the old one. The one etched on that cradle they buried in the church's west wall. When the screaming wouldn't stop, the choir reaches crescendo. The marrow in your bones begins to hum sympathetically. Your ribs ache with prophecy. You realize this is only verse 3. You haven't even heard the cursed one yet, but someone else has. From the edge of the choir's circle, a shape emerges. Childlike in height, but entirely wrong in presence. A girl with black eyes and no shadow, she mouths a lullaby, but you hear it in reverse. The walls don't echo it, they absorb it. Where she steps, the notes decay. One by one, the choir boys still, their wires snap. They fall, but do not hit the ground. They simply vanish before impact. She turns to you, smiles. Bleeds from her ears. You know her, not by name, but by absence. She is the one the cathedral forgot, the prophet's sister, the voice who never sang, but always knew the melody, and she is humming now. You weep not for sorrow, but in harmony. The sound that leaves your chest is not your own. The prophet's tongue shivers in approval, curled behind your skull like a parasite savoring a memory. The girl gestures toward the center of the chamber, where a pedestal rises a slab of carved antler, wet with breath. Upon it, a single page, not parchment, not flesh. Something worse, it quivers. You approach. The text is blurred until your tears hit it. Then it sharpens into dreadful focus. Verse 4. He who remembers the melody shall forget his name. He who sings it shall inherit the tongue. He who completes it shall become the choir. You look up. The girl is gone. But her lullaby lingers, burned into the arches of your hearing. The choir boys are gone. But the notes cling to your skin like spiderlings in search of a nest. You touch the page. It cuts you, not your finger, your future. It bleeds potential, and something drinks it. The page folds itself, then unfolds. Then multiplies, dozens now, they fly into the air. Circle you, a paper storm, each slice whispers something different. And all of them, everyone accuse you. Not for what you've done, but for what you will do. The choir sings your eulogy in reverse. And behind it, another voice joins yours. But not from your mouth, from behind your spine. It's learning the hymn well. The tongue's rehearsal is nearly complete. One more verse. Then the real sermon begins. The sermon twists. It coils like an ill beneath skin, slipping into marrow and memory alike. You stagger from the chamber not out of exhaustion, but because the ground no longer believes in straight lines. It hums, slightly off-key, beneath your boots. As if the tiles themselves are practicing the hymn, and now the cathedral remembers. Not you itself, you are no longer inside the building. You are inside its recollection, always returned that hadn't existed for centuries. A fresco reveals itself where there was once only soot, the image, a weeping woman with no face, holding a child made of stitched together mouths. Beneath it, etched in something suspiciously pink, Verse 5 must never be sung whole. The ink in your mouth tastes like it agrees. You descend again, but this stairwell is made of vertebrae, each step groaning in complaint. You count them 33. The age of betrayal, and when you reach the bottom, the door awaiting you bears no knob, only a tooth, yours. The one you lost on that icy morning when the choir boy fell from the rafters and landed grinning. The one you never told anyone about. How does it fit so perfectly into the slot? The door sighs open, inside, pews of bone. Velvet cushions with breath still caught in them. Candles, but not wax fingers, curled into flame. And the pulpit, it's empty, not abandoned. Anticipating, the tongue wants out. You feel it sliding along the roof of your mouth like a slug eager for freedom. You try to resist, of course you do. But resistance has never been your strong suit, has it? Behind the pulpit stands a mirror, not reflective, revealing. It shows what you looked like before the sermon started, before the ink, before the choir's hunger. You barely recognize yourself. Not because you've changed, but because it hasn't. It watches you with disappointment. And in its corner stands a figure, head bowed, cloaked in hymns stitched from childhood promises, holding a censer that swings not with incense, but with memory. Each pass through the air dredges something up. Your first word it was don't, wasn't it? The day you learned silence hurts worse than screams. The moment you first asked what your dreams meant and were told never ask again. The sensor swings wider, the figure looks up, and behind the hood, there is only a mouth. No face, no skull, just a cavern of voice. It speaks. And every word lands on your bones like nails in wood, not hurting, nailing you shut. It doesn't ask you to approach, it makes you want to. That's worse. It beckons with a hum low, slow, sticky with promise. Your limbs disobey caution. You climb the pulpit. You stand before the mouth. It opens wider. And now you hear it. Verse 5, not spoken, breathed. The Black Psalm of Vorther notes this part cryptically when the fifth tongue sings. The mouth becomes cathedral, and the listener becomes door. You understand now. This whole time, you weren't meant to hear the black sermon. You were meant to become its threshold. You brace, but the voice doesn't strike. It asks you your name. Not the one you give at introductions, the one beneath that. The one even you don't know until it's carved into something permanent like a grave or a sermon. The moment you think it, the choir resumes. All of it, not the boys, not the pages. The cathedral itself, it sings, the bricks vibrate. The dust pulses in time, the pews bend inward like bows about to loose. The mirror behind you shatters inward. From it, something steps out. You know who it is, the girl from before, only older. Not in years, in burden. She wears the choir's silence now like a second skin. Her eyes are closed, but her tears trace hymns on her cheeks. In her hand, the prophet's tongue, still moving, still tasting. She places it at the mouth's threshold. It writhes, accepts her, rejects you. She hums the final note of verse 5, and the entire cathedral bleeds down its walls. Not with gore, with regret, each drop a sin no one confessed. Each stain a memory someone begged to forget. You breathe it in, and suddenly, you remember everything, all of it, not just your story. Theirs, the girls, the choirs, the prophets, the architects, even the mouths. They've all been waiting for one thing, someone to finish the hymn. And you're nearly ready, just one verse remains. And you already know how it ends, don't you? You've been humming it in your sleep for years. That's why they marked your cradle. That's why your shadow flickers on days without sun. That's why the bell inside your spine rings only on Sundays. The girl nods, the prophet's tongue melts into script. The pages curl into your veins, the mouth whispers, preach. The sermon passes through you, not around, not above, through. You do not speak it, it uses you. Your jaw unhinges not with pain, but with permission. Your breath fogs backward, chilling the ceiling. Each syllable slices its way out, trailing scripture like splinters down your throat. The pews lean forward, the candle fingers snap open. And somewhere behind your eyes, a curtain parts. They are listening. Not the congregation then, you see them now. Stacked behind the veil of sound, clinging to the echoes, pale, jointless. Moth-eyed things wearing stolen collars and veils of silence. Parishioners of nothing, converts to absence. Their mouths don't open, their ears do, and wider than yours. For a moment, you envy them. Then the sermon strikes its middle note, and your envy catches fire. The floor beneath your feet fractures not like stone, but like memory, fractures you've stepped over before. Always careful not to look down. This time, you fall in. Not through space, through confession. Each layer of descent brings with it a verse. A child forgetting their name in the dark. A nun who stitched a hymnal from funeral invitations. A bell ringer who flung himself into the bell, mistaking his heartbeat for a chime. Each story carves your ribs into staves. Each note tattoos itself on your lungs. You are being rewritten. The girl watches from above, still clutching what's left of the tongue. Not sad, not afraid, only quiet. As though she has done this before. As though you have too, and perhaps you have. The sermon seems to think so. It coils around a memory you didn't know you had, a nursery rhyme. Spoken in reverse, a door that only opened for bleeding hands. A lullaby with no beginning but too many ends. Your voice breaks, not from strain, from clarity. The mouth behind the pulpit grins wider. You expected teeth, you get names, yours among them. Whispered in languages no throat should carry, etched in scripts that curl like parasites. Your name spoken the way the sky once did before it cracked open in answer to the girl's song. That sound again, low, eager. The cathedral's pulse accelerates, no longer a building, no longer a place, a womb of what? You. But not you now, you then, the version of you erased at birth. The one the midwife smothered with cloth stitched from silence, the one that bit back. He's waiting beneath the pulpit, beneath the floorboards, under the choir's grave. You feel the black would buckle as he close upward, not to escape, to rejoin, to make you whole. It's said in the Forbidden's Catechism of Droz, the true sermon is a reunification. The tongue finds its echo, the soul finds its sin. He is your echo, and your sin, the board split, a hand, bloated with ink, seizes your ankle, and oh, how familiar that grip is. You do not scream, you continue the hymn, because that's what it's always wanted. Not volume, not belief, not sacrifice. Completion. The girl places the prophet's tongue in your palm. It weeps ink, twitching like a fish dreaming of the sea. You press it to your lips, you bite, it sings. The scream that follows is not pain, it's punctuation. The mouth opens wider than possible, folding the cathedral inside itself. The sky above splits again, not from the girl's lullaby this time, from yours, and something answers, not with words, with hunger. It drips from the heavens like molasses laced with memory. The things behind the veil of sound surge forward. You expected them to attack. They kneel. Each one reaching up not to praise, to pull you downward to where the sermon began and ended. Same place, same note. You fall again, only now. You're no longer shedding your humanity. You're harvesting it. Each confession in your path sticks to your ribs, fossilizing into verse. A newborn mouth opens in your stomach, reciting what your lips no longer need to say. You are the book, and the voice, and the tune. The girl kneels beside you and speaks the final line. Let the preacher be devoured. You do not scream, you do not flee, you open. And something walks in. The sermon does not stop, even now. Even as your skin curls with scripture and your marrow clinks like a reliquary's chain. Even as you kneel not in worship, but in transformation. The cathedral's stained glass windows no longer show saints or martyrs. They show you, or pieces of you. Eyes in wrong places, or ribcage that yawns. A hand holding its own shadow. Each pain bleeds slowly. Not blood, not ink, memory, yours. You watch it trickle down the glass, forming scenes you had buried like dead birds beneath childhood, a door you never entered, a cradle you never left, a lullaby hummed in reverse behind a wall that pulsed. You want to look away, but the glass moves, repositions itself in your vision, as though your shame feeds its light, as though it hungers for your guilt. A child's laugh bubbles from the rafters, sweet, splintered. The girl's voice, no, yours. You were the child once, and the voice was always borrowed. The prophet's tongue twitches inside you, nesting now comfortable, at home. It hums a note you remember from sleep, too loud to be imagined, too soft to be shared, a note older than the cathedral, older than language, the black sermon's root chord. It shakes you from the inside, rearranging organs like misplaced commas. The blood in your veins forgets which way to flow. Your eyes blink out of rhythm, one looking backward in time. And you see them, the monks of Vorther. Their eyes stitched shut with hymnals, their fingers bent backward into prayer, chanting through slit throats, smiling through skulls that never healed. This is where it began. The voice inside you whispers. The tongue, not yours anymore, never was. You step forward, not toward the pulpit, not toward the girl, toward the veil. The place between breath and meaning. It's thin here, fragile. You push your hand through it, and it passes not into darkness, into recognition. You know this place. It remembers you. The walls throb with your first sin. The choir sings in a language only your bones recall, and beneath your feet, the prophet what's left of him shifts, awakened by the voice now rooted in your chest. You kneel, you speak. The words are not yours, but they carry your teeth. The sermon is the door, a reply, in 1,000 voices that share your inflection, and the tongue is the key. You are both, the door, now ajar, and the key, turning slowly. The girl smiles, and her smile is too large, not for her face, for the room. It stretches across pews, across the altar, across the listening things above. You're ready, she says. You nod. You are not. But readiness was never required, only willingness, and you are willing now. The pulpit erupts in vines made of rosaries and regret. Pages from the book fly upward, some bound in flesh, some bound in breath. They circle you like vultures and whispers. The tongue sings again, so do you. Your body is a choir pit now, each vertebrae a note, each tendon a harp string. You hum in triplets. You echo in octaves no mortal choir should know the veil parts fully. Behind it, a chapel of unspoken sermons where every pew is a spine, and every prayer ends with an open mouth. You walk in. They wait, the congregation of the never-written. Priests without pens, prophets without pasts. Scribblers whose ink was always blood. They welcome you, their mouths open to show no tongues. Only space, only invitation. You smile, or what's left of you does. Let the sermon begin again, you say. They nod, the first voice to echo back is yours. But not the you standing here, not the you that bled, not even the child that laughed once. The voice that answers is the first version of you before birth, before sound, a fetal thing made of concepts and curses. It speaks the unspeakable, and the cathedral listens. Not in stone, in flesh, the bricks drip, the pews bend. The sky outside dims to parchment. The sermon has restarted, but this time, you're giving it, and the world, it has no choice but to listen. The sermon is a wound, and you are the blade. Every syllable you utter peels back the veil of reality, not tearing, not breaking, but unfolding, like an old love letter written in another tongue. One stitched into skin, your congregation listens, if you can call them that. They do not kneel, they do not bow, they vibrate. Their eyes flicker between past lives and in some futures. Their mouths hang open not in awe, but in vacancy, as if waiting to be filled with whatever foul thing your voice might seed into them. Your words aren't yours, you've made peace with that. The prophet's tongue has fully rooted, stretching down your throat like a vine searching for ruin. Its taste lingers, copper, ash, milk teeth. Each note you sing from the black sermon is older than language, older than death, older than forgiveness, and it hurts, not you then. You notice the skin on the listener's hands beginning to blister. Each new phrase you deliver blooms boils along their spines. Their bones begin to click and hum, as if harmonizing with the chords you chant. Much like the hymn in your own marrow, isn't it? A boy in the front row, if it is a boy, starts to float, as if your words are lifting him like breath lifts dust in dying cathedrals. His face splits in a wide grin that doesn't stop at the cheeks. You speak a third verse, and he explodes not with blood, but paper, each scrap scrawled in runes too dangerous to translate. Pages that burn without fire, you smile. You did that. You always did. The tongue chuckles. It likes this place. The girl from before stands in the aisle, clutching the spine of the book where the prophet once lived. Her face is blank, now blank like stone before chisel, like death before ritual. She watches. She does not blink. You speak a fourth verse. The ceiling dissolves. Not crumbles, not collapses, simply ceases. Above, a firmament of language, and shaped and infinite. Glyphs writhe in the stars, sentences orbit like moons. The sky is made of things not meant to be read, but the congregation reads. Oh, how they read, their eyes spill ink, their teeth drip stanzas. A man who rows behind coughs up a verb older than his family line. A woman weeps punctuation into her palms. All of them write the next gospel, unwillingly. You've become a scribe of suffering, a shepherd of syntax. The sermon doesn't care that they're dying, it requires it. The Black Psalm of Vorther warned of this, remember. Let not the verse reach flesh, it said, for the flesh will answer in fire. Too late now, you're on the 5th verse. Your throat bubbles, the tongue hums in pleasure, and through the widening hole in the ceiling, you see them. Things without names, things that never needed names. They gather on the lip of the world, watching you speak the verses that unmake prayer and unweave reason. One opens, not its mouth that has no face. It opens possibility, the wine that pours through cracks your ribs like reeds. Behind you, the congregation wails. Not in agony, in completion, their sermon is being fulfilled. They are no longer them, they are one body of writhing words and quivering parchment, one choir of sentient liturgy. And they follow you, you lift the book. Your fingers fuse with its spine. You open to a page written in thumbprint, not ink, you read, it reads you. And the girl, she kneels, then splits into 9 reflections, each whispering a new verse, each growing wings made of declarations and dogma. The Black Sermon isn't one thing, it's all things. Every blasphemy ever swallowed, every truth denied in fear, every heresy burned before it breathed. You are the last tongue and the first mouth. You are the sermon's speaker and the sermon's grave. You close the book, everything pauses. Even the nameless watchers still. The final verse waits, one word, you hesitate, a breath. A flutter of dead hymns in your lungs, you speak it, it cannot be written here. But you feel it glowing behind your teeth even now, don't you? Everything shatters, but not like glass. Like narrative, the story you told yourself collapses. You were never a person, only a verb given shape. The listeners dissolve into clauses. The sky punctuates itself, the girl, all 9 of her, reverts to silence, and the cathedral. It inhales, not air, you. You awaken as silence incarnate, no heartbeat, no breath. Just meaningless stillness held together by a memory of rhythm. The cathedral is gone. No rubble, no ruin, just ... absence. But it remembers you. You know this because you're still standing in the exact shape of your former self. A figure cut from silence, outlined in residual whispers, occupying the ghost of a space that never truly existed. And the book, still in your hands, heavier now. It pulses, sluggish, as if reluctant to keep living, or perhaps reluctant to let you. Its cover twitches beneath your grip, flexing like the back of a beast that knows it will soon be dissected. The flesh binding it hasn't stopped breathing since you closed it. The prophet's tongue rests quiet in your throat now, hibernating. Or listening, all around you, the world is waiting. It has heard the sermon, but it hasn't yet understood it. You take a step forward and the void beneath you flinches. Your footfalls ripple through absence like stones thrown through dreams. The space around you folds into itself, corridors blooming from nothing, built from half-remembered prayers and orphan curses. A hallway forms and, of course, you walk it. The walls whisper in semaphore, taps and ticks like heartbeat Morse code. You recognize one phrase repeated over and over. Do not speak the 7th name. You didn't think you knew the first 6. But you do now. You feel them humming in your blood, like a string of forgotten sins recited on the gallows. Each one is a key, and your bones are the lock. You begin to rattle slightly, joints creaking in response to the hallway's shifting architecture. It isn't building itself randomly, it's being read by you. The floor beneath your feet mutates into pews. The ceiling arches into stained glass diagrams of your internal anatomy, displayed in reverent torment. Your lungs, your shame, your silence, all depicted in perfect light. A door waits at the end of the hall. Of course it does. It bears no knob, no handle, just a mouth. A carved, chiseled mouth. It is slightly open, as if it expects something to be fed. You know what it wants. You unhook your voice, not metaphorically. You physically remove it, like unraveling a scarf made of your vocal cords. The tongue inside you giggles, yes. Giggles like a glutted child handed another meal. You press your voice into the door's mouth. It chews, swallows, the door opens. On the other side, the next sermon, it's not written. It's alive, a mass of witnesses, bound together not by faith but by shared hallucination. You see their faces unfolded like manuscripts. Their spines curled into question marks, their eyes wide, like they were forced to watch their own creation. The room pulses. You step inside. Your voice grows back instantly. But it's not your voice anymore. It's deeper, wider. You speak once, and the walls drip syllables. A man in the corner bursts into stanzas. A child clutches her ears and coughs up ellipses. The prophet's tongue has stopped whispering. It's waiting now for the final chapter, the seventh name. You've spoken 6 already, not aloud, but with every verse. Every reader, every echo, you hear them now, the first 6 etched behind your eyes. Forther, Nursather, Kelthash, the ensigned one. Myrdung, the infant psalm, and the 7th. You do not say it, you become it. As the congregation convulses and the air thickens with unuttered letters, your flesh begins to rewrite itself. Each cell becomes a consonant, each hair a vowel. Your shadow now bears punctuation. And the girl, she reappears, holding a key carved from quietude. She places it in your heart. Turns it, you open. The sermon begins again. But this time, there are no words. Only understanding, a silence so profound it screams. And from that scream, the world changes. Because now it knows the 7th name, and so do you. You speak the 7th name, but not with breath, with silence. It unfurls from the marrow of you, an absence so complete it echoes. Your mouth doesn't open, your lungs don't expand. You do not move, and yet the air around you flinches. The witnesses, those poor parchment-trapped vessels, fold inward, each one collapsing with the grace of forgotten scripture. Their bones hum with thankfulness or terror. The distinction, at this point, is moot. The prophet's tongue disintegrates within you, atom by sacred atom, releasing one final syllable into your bloodstream. It's not a sound. It's a shape, a cruel, angular glyph etched directly onto your ribs. A mark you will carry until the scroll is closed, forever. You walk through the congregation. They don't resist. Kent, you've become part of the sermon now. It's herald, it's hymn, it's horror. You trail fingerprints of a making with every step. The floor beneath you ripples with memory, replaying old sins in flares of luminous regret. You see what came before, the first preacher, the one who carved the original sermon into his skin, searching for punctuation that never existed. And now you, the third, the final, the one chosen not to read the scroll, but to become it. Behind you, the door seals shut with a wet. She cracked the sky, she called you. The ceiling above peels open like diseased parchment, revealing the void, not the sky now, that's gone. Burned out like a candle in holy water, ... above you. The in space, a realm without shape. A hymn without chorus, and somewhere within it her. She descends without descending. You feel her presence in your bloodstream, your spine, your shadow. The lullaby curls again, leaking from your pores. Not the words, those are gone, but the cadence. The ache, the wrongness. She does not speak, she reads. And you are what she reads. You are the blood scroll. You are the sermon's end. The congregation stirs. A mass resurrection of meaning. They are not bodies anymore. They are verses, trembling in her breath. Pages that shiver as she turns through them. Each soul around you is a stanza. Each death, a comma, each betrayal, a chorus. And you, the final sentence. She touches the top of your head and removes it, not literally how base, but meaningfully, spiritually. You become exposed, like a book with no spine. Your thoughts pour out as ink, your guilt becomes grammar, your dreams, footnotes, your sins, index entries. She reads you, and as she does, the world learns. What you cannot say, there are no words left. Even the prophet, in all his screaming, never reached this point, the moment where the sermon turns back on itself, curls inward like a hook, and pulls. Not just the world, but you. You feel the reversal begin. Time folds. Space inverts. The audience gasps in unison, not with lungs, but with purpose. You're being closed, like a scroll too ancient to bear another reading. And just before you vanish entirely, you hear her voice for the first time. Soft, lethal, it says, "Now that I've read you, I will write the rest." And the world begins to reshape itself. From your story, from your silence, from the black sermon stitched into your bones, the writing begins. You are no longer the narrator, nor the subject, nor even the parchment. You are ink, now living pigment bleeding into the fabric of reality. A language older than sound, more honest than light. You feel yourself becoming sentence. Each movement of her thought scrawls fresh architecture across the cosmos. The stars blink out one by one as commas. The moon becomes a question mark, bent, doubting, still hanging, and the sun. She places it at the end of a line, a period, glowing, hot, and final. You feel these rearrangements deep in your marrow, the way your fingers twitch into runes, the way your tongue curls into quotation marks, the way your breath adopts a rhythm you do not command. The prophet's legacy was never a prophecy, it was grammar, her grammar. And you're the proofreader, a chapel assembles around you, not built, but told into existence. Its bricks form midair, each one a borrowed phrase from the screaming books of Vorther. Its stained glass windows illustrate scenes from your memories, although the faces inside are slightly off. They weep backward, their mouths are before their eyes. The pulpit sits vacant. Until you sit in it, your body folds willingly, spine cracking into syllables. Your eyes bloom like marginalia glossing the congregation's sins. And before you, they gather pages of people, codices of flesh, scrolls of screams. They are the sermon now, but you are its anchor. The blood vessels in your wrists uncurl like ribbons. You raise your hands and the ceiling moans, echoing a phrase you do not remember learning. From void, she inked the first word. From ink, the void replied, the ceiling splits. This time not into sky, into interpretation. It rains translations, each droplet a revision, a disagreement, a commentary on your purpose. The air thickens with theological footnotes, they curl as they fall, whispering annotations into your ears. One lands in your palm, it says. The seventh tongue never lies, it corrects, your jaw tightens. You feel something growing inside you, another mouth. Not yours, hers, she's moved in. She's narrating now, you try to resist, you fail. You narrate her will, instead, your mouth opens. Words spill out, not yours, her next paragraph. The sermon, continuing, and in front of you, the congregation begins to rewrite. Their bones loosen, their names shift, their identities tangle. Some weep as their family histories become legends, then rumors, then grammatical errors, others vanish entirely, footnotes lost to editing. And only one laughs, a child. Small, eyeless, wearing a crown of index cards, she speaks, and you recognize her voice, it's yours, or ... who you were. Before you were written, before you swallowed the prophet. Before the sky cracked, she asks, do I become you next? You do not answer, but the blood dripping from your palm spells yes. She steps into the pulpit, you move aside. Another narrator, another verse, another black sermon, whispered across another unraveling world. And the writing continues, until everything is legible. Everything ... except forgiveness. The child begins her reading, not aloud, no. The ink is too sacred for sound. But within the pulpit's shadow, her breath flickers in metered rhythm. each exhale a revision of something holy. She does not blink. Though her eyelids twitch like quills, her crown of index cards rustles gently, pages turning in an invisible wind. You kneel now, not in reverence, in inevitability. This is the part the scroll never described, the moment when the scroll begins to write back. When author and archive exchange places, when you, ink-soaked vessel of forgotten truths, become just another annotation, the prophet's tongue, gone. But in its place, a library of vowels behind your teeth. You can feel them there, wriggling, self-aware, some still taste of parchment, others of ash. She breathes again, and the parchment floor beneath her feet sighs. Do you remember the Black Psalm of Vorther? Of course you don't, not all of it. Now living mind holds its fullness, only the margins survive. But one fragment surfaces now, unbidden, insistent, when the child names herself aloud. The sermon is no longer sung, it is devoured. You hope she doesn't. You hope she does. She lifts her hands. Each one bears the scars of unwritten lineage, not cuts but erasures. Parts of her that once belonged to someone else, a family line, perhaps, or a different fate. Her fingers touch the pulpit, the sky gasps again. It's smaller now, no longer vast, no longer open, it's compressing, folding around this sacred moment like a binding being stitched. The stars no longer shine, they red. The sun flickers once more, it doesn't burn, it blinks. You look to the child's eyes. You expect darkness, you find margins, empty ones. She is not full yet, she's waiting for your final line, and in a moment of dread clarity, you understand. She can't continue until you finish. You are the unfinished sentence. The sermon is paused between commas until you provide the close. The world hovers, grammar fraying at the edges. Your bones itch with punctuation. Your blood thickens into red ink. The prophet's tongue curls once, then dies a second death in your throat. So, you speak, one syllable, unpronounceable, unforgivable, final. And her eyes flood with script. The sermon resumes. The child's voice rises, not hers, but the weight of all the names ever whispered into silence. It carries the sound of forgotten prayers, of shutters slammed during eclipses, of librarians who died screaming at forbidden's lexicons. And she reads, this is the scroll that bleeds. This is the scroll that sees. This is the scroll that ends you. You collapse, not from pain, from punctuation. You are a closing quotation mark now, a thing that comes only after something worse. Your spine cracks once more, this time in relief. The story doesn't need you anymore. The story has her. The child lowers the pulpit into the ground. It doesn't descend. It is deleted. Erased without fanfare, you are the only one who sees, or remembers, or regrets. The others chant, verse-like, hollow, beautiful ... and behind them, a library grows from ash and hymn. A place for the scroll to sleep, a place for the child to wait. Until the next syllable dares to breathe. You awaken mid-sentence, not yours, not hers, but one still unfurling across the marrow of the world. It curls inside your ear, half whisper, half command. You cannot tell if it's a memory or a footnote. The child is gone, the pulpit vanished. Yet the library remains, or perhaps you've become it. The walls move when you think. Shelves rearrange according to emotion. The ceiling groans with grammar. The air smells of parchment and wet teeth. Somewhere far behind you, a door opens, not on hinges, but like eyelids, and from it spills a congregation of editors. You know them at once by their silence. Each wears a mask of blank vellum. Their robes are sewn from old sermon leaves. Their footsteps echo not in sound, but in citation. One approaches. You recognize him, though not from memory, but from your own margins. A name you erased long ago to make space for survival. Your brother, he does not speak. Instead, he raises a lantern shaped like a question mark. Its flame flickers uncertainly, casting punctuation-shaped shadows across your path. Behind him, the other editors hum a low, susurrant cadence. You realize They're harmonizing to the Black Sermon, not singing it but fact-checking it. They circle you not in threat, but invitation. You are the only apostrophe here, the only bend in an otherwise straight doctrine. A relic of possession, and they want it back. You run, or try to, but the floor beneath your feet rearranges. Paragraphs stretch, coil, tighten. A corridor of annotations locks into place, herding you forward. Not escape direction, you are being led. Through the index of your own guilt. Each chamber you pass is a memory rewritten, your father's voice corrected, your mother's face censored, your first lie highlighted. You come to a staircase built from ellipses, each step unfinished. Each step trailing possibility, you descend. And at the bottom, a room, you know it. It's where the tongue was swallowed, where the prophet gave his final lesson. The last word is never the last word is who remains. Inside the room, a mirror waits. But it does not show your face, it shows your footnote. A tiny, shrinking mark in the lower right corner of existence. A reference to a forgotten truth. And the mirror reads you aloud, every sun, every silence, every unspeakable word you let into the world. You shatter it, of course you do. But the shards do not cut, they correct. They rearrange midair, forming a new glyph, one you do not understand. But your mouth speaks it anyway, and somewhere behind you, the editors nod. One writes something in the air. Another nods, approved, you are now part of the canon. The child's next verse already includes your name. And somewhere above, the sky begins to footnote itself. The sermon never ends, it only learns. The sermon, now footnoted with your breath, begins to fold, not collapse fold, like parchment under a meticulous scribe's hand. Every syllable of existence bends into creases you didn't know your mind could hold. The air tightens around your temples. Your lungs exhale sentences. You are being read. Not by eyes, but by intention, the library flexes. One wall becomes stained glass scripture, each panel illustrating moments from your life you've long tried to forget. That time you mouthed prayers you didn't believe. That time your silence cost someone else their sanity. That time you whispered I love you only to steal something sacred. The stained glass screams, not with voice but with illumination. Each image pulses once, burns black, then vanishes, replaced with red ink diagrams of the human soul, yours, annotated for dissection. The editors smile, not kind smiles, just correct ones. Section 26, one of them says, though not aloud. It vibrates through the marrow of the room. That's you now, a section, no longer a person. Just a continuation of narrative. A consequence in flesh. You reach for a book, any book. They are all blank now because the story is writing you. Every choice, every hesitation, it etches across your bones. You can feel each vowel carving deeper into your ribcage, your spine now a table of contents. And still, no period. Above you, the ceiling parts. The stars spill downward, not light, but lexicon. Constellations of forgotten words tumble across the air. The black psalm of Vorther dances between them, incomplete but not silent. You see a phrase glimmer. Theo flees the sermon becomes its new tongue. You try not to read it, but it's already inside you. Your jaw unhinges not with pain, but with permission, and from it comes a voice not yours, not the child's, but the prophet's. He speaks again. Through you begin, and the editors kneel, all of them. 1,000 red-robed archivists bending like punctuation. The room begins to rise, not you the room. Elevating like an offering toward the parchment sky. The child appears again above you this time, her eyes alight with citation marks. Her skin flickers with edits, she sings. And the sound is not sound, it is translation of agony into truth, of memory into scripture, of you into them. You're forgetting yourself, but remembering something older, a voice that's waited too long in silence. A sermon that can only begin when the prophet's new vessel you is ready. She reaches down. You take her hand. and every bone in your body turns to paper. The moment her fingers touch yours, time weeps ink. Not metaphorically, your veins truly fill with it. You feel it slosh and stir. Dense as tar and etched with minnings your skull isn't shaped to house. Somewhere behind your eyes, a quill drags across cortex, scripting glyphs in the wet gray folds of your mind. She hums again. It's your name, not the one you were born with, but the one the sermon needs. You wear it now, it fits wrong, like borrowed skin, but the black sermon insists. The editors part as you rise. They do not speak, but you feel their gaze. Not like being watched, but like being referenced. Their eyes are Machin's, their approval, a dagger made from consensus. The sky groans above you, parchment strained thin over a cosmos desperate to rewrite itself. Stars flicker, aligning into letters, paragraphs, diagrams. One constellation resembles a screaming mouth. Another a noose knotted from language. You feel yourself unfolding. Your bones are manuscripts, each breath turns a page. Each thought becomes law, the prophet is no longer missing. You are both voice and absence, volume and echo. The girl-child, guide, glossary points downward, and the earth parts in obedience. Beneath you, a cathedral carved entirely from teeth. Every pew is a rib, every window pane, a blister stretched thin over memory. This is the altar of the unspoken word. The place where language dies to be reborn. You descend with each step. Your feet touch forgotten scriptures. Verses no longer allowed, dogmas erased from mercy. One fragment rises beneath you. Do not name what waits beneath silence, but you do. The name comes unbidden and summoned undeniable. And the cathedral shudders, walls weep ink. The stained molar windows moan, the pulpit shaped like a throat opens wide, and you step inside. You are swallowed again, this time willingly. You descend further, inside the sermon's throat, into the prophet's echo. Down past chapters that smell like burning hymns. Through hallways lined with former speakers tongueless now, but watching. They recognize you, they nod, they envy. You reach the heart. It is not beating, it is chanting ... slow. Wet syllables that shape reality as they throb. The girl waits there, now grown, or perhaps ageless. Her voice is the same you speak it, she says. Or they'll keep listening, you understand. This story doesn't end, it only begins again. And again, until the last sermon speaks itself. You open your mouth and pages fall out. Not words, pages, they flutter, flap, spiral upward, the editors catch them. Read them, weep ... their masks fall away, revealing your face over and over, in infinite variations. You wrote this, you are this. The blood scroll unrolls in your shadow, and behind you, the cathedral of teeth begins to chew. The chewing begins gently, like a cradle rocking itself, not with noise, but with pressure. The cathedral pulses inward. Each ivory wall leans, each pew tightens its grip. Somewhere above, stained enamel arches groan with satisfaction, bending into a prayer only your bones understand. You're not alone. The echoes join you, no longer content to be ghosts. They rise from creases in the air, wrinkled shapes with breath made of punctuation and regrets. You recognize some by scent ink and singe hair, and others by wounds, ritualistic absences where their mouths once lived. They bow to you, and it feels wrong. You haven't earned reverence. You simply lasted long enough. The grown girl, if that's still what she is, lowers her gaze and hands you a blade. It isn't steel, it's quill bone, notched from a beast that once devoured libraries whole. The black sermon won't end until you sign its silence, she whispers. You hesitate, she nods, as if she expected this. Even the prophet paused once, but you're not a prophet. You're a reader cursed with authorship. A scribe in a nightmare that demands ink drawn from your own memory. The blade is light. And eager, you turn it in your palm, watching the script flare beneath your skin, every scar a phrase, every bruise a footnote. And as you press the blade to the pulpit flesh, it parts willingly. A mouth opens, not metaphor, not symbol. A mouth, wet, breathing, awaiting instruction. Write what must not be remembered, she says, and so you do, line by line. The deaths you were told to forget, the betrayals papered over with doctrine. The names burned off birth records, the children whose lullabies summoned storms, and whose mothers were replaced before the dawn. Ink seeps upward from the pulpit's throat, winding around your wrist. It writes with you, it guides you, it corrects you. Each error triggers a sob beneath the stone floor, a muffled scream stifled by soil. Each truth earns you another set of fingers clutching your ankles from below. Keep going, she says. But the scroll is endless, you whisper. She smiles, yes, that's the mercy. Above, the editors return, wings made of stitched vellum spread wide. Their eyes glow, if you can call it that, with the glow of burning libraries, with the flicker of heretical bonfires. They descend toward you like falling annotations. You keep writing, your hand no longer yours. You remember a time before the sermon, when churches were merely stone and not conduits. When voices didn't echo before being spoken, it feels distant now, wrong, even. Why would you ever not belong to this? The scroll grows fatter, binding itself around your ribcage. Each breath must now be read. Each exhale is proofread and corrected mid-sentence. Your lungs wheeze in iambic pentameter. The editors approve. They nod, and so does she. Her face is dissolving now, reforming into the one who came before, or perhaps the one after. Her lullaby hums in the marrow of your teeth. It ends with a crack in the air. And something answering. You don't turn to see what. You only dip the quill blade again, and carve another memory from your tongue. You are part of the scroll now, and the scroll is never finished. The air tastes of vellum soaked in marrow. Each breath you take rests like parchment torn backward through time. The scroll beneath your hands no longer lies still. It writhes with a pulse not your own, alive, sentient, and increasingly discontent with the silence between its lines. Something is missing. It wants something from you. You glance to your right, where the girl the vessel once stood. She is ash now, perfectly shaped ash, still seated upright in reverence, her form held together by memory alone. The moment you blink, she disintegrates fully, drifting into the air like discarded epilogues. A single hum remains. It vibrates inside your sternum. You try to speak, but the sound that escapes your lips is not yours, it's hers. The lullaby, the one that cracked the sky. And something stirs again in answer, a soundless step. You turn. You shouldn't, but you do. Behind you stands the answerer, the one summoned by voice and fit to echo. Its face is a congregation of mouths, each whispering from different epochs. A crown of ossified scriptures rests upon its hedonculus, yet bleeding lines into the void. Its hands are made of rejected prophecies stitched together, trembling with withheld judgment. You do not kneel, you recline, as if your spine forgets rebellion. Because this thing, this reader of the unspeakable, does not demand praise, it demands revision. Your flesh is no longer a body, it is a rough draft, your memories, bibliography of lies. The answerer reaches forward, unfurling a tongue carved from the prophet's own. It touches your forehead not to bless, but to redact. Entire decades are erased, a friend you once remembered, gone. The name of your mother, blurred, your own reflection. Rewritten until the mirror denies ever knowing you. You want to scream, but the only sound you produce is a sermon fragment, backward. Atonal, riddled with symbols never meant for vocal cords. The scroll beneath you splits, from it rise others like you. Each bound in grief and revelation, each scribbling not with fingers, but with their regrets. You recognize them. The historian who forgot her own child. The knight who recorded betrayals in the bones of his enemies. The lover who inked letters he never sent, then consumed them to silence his guilt. Now all of you are present for the final stanza. The answerer raises one elongated digit. The choir resumes. Not boys, not human, Their lungs are scrolls now, stretched wide and inked with pain. Their notes spiral upward, shredding the rafters with untruths refined into melody ... and with every note. The cathedral bends further, warping in geometric protest. The lullaby continues, pouring from your lips without consent, and now it's not just the sky that cracks, it's everything. The stone splits like bark peeled from a screaming tree. The pews crumble inward, the pulpits collapse. The editors combust into flickers of punctuation, absorbed back into the manuscript of oblivion. Yet still, the scroll endures, and still, you write. Because someone must finish the black sermon, and it won't be the ones who began it. You understand now, the prophet's tongue wasn't eaten to silence him. It was consumed so his voice could never end. And now, it echoes through you, unfinished, unyielding, unforgiven. It begins with a breath, not yours. The scroll, now vast enough to eclipse the days, inhales through unseen seams. The air recoils, drawn into that ink-thick void like parchment curling to near a flame. Your bones groan beneath the pressure, each rib grinding as though they no longer belong to a single architecture. You sit at its center. The sermon must end, but it has no ending. Only a reader, only you, the answerer is gone, or perhaps never truly stood apart. The thing inside the scroll, the lullaby's consequence, wears you now, like a robe of skin turned inside out. It speaks with your memories, flicks through them like marginalia. It selects phrases, rearranges meaning, a word here, a name there. You remember your childhood. It now includes sermons you never heard, hymns you never learned, guilt you never earned. You remember your own voice, but it is rewritten in third-person passive, like you were always merely the vessel. She wrote, it says. She screamed, it annotates, she was. A crack forms in your vision, not in the air but through the lens of your thought. Everything fractures into footnotes, reality reduced to commentary. The scroll demands one final act of completion, a signature. But it can't be yours. Your name has been spent. Erased line by line in inkless revisions, only one name remains unspoken. Sealed behind the prophet's final breath, you do not speak it, you become it. The letters carve themselves into your chest, raised welts that glow with the heat of recursion. The scroll exhales now slow, satisfied, and its pages curl inward like a closing maw. Everything darkens, but not in the way night falls. More like how ink spreads across a manuscript in reverse erasing light, hope, context. You feel others join you, not by presence, but by collapse. Their sermons, too, have concluded. All endings, all of them lead to this final library of mouths. And in the silence after the last echo dies, a whisper trickles from the base of your spine. Read it again. No command, no threat. Just a promise, and already you feel the first line uncoiling again. In your throat, in your blood, in the marrow of your grief. Because the black sermon was never written to end, only to continue, voice by stolen voice, like yours, like theirs, like hers.